introduce Annie Margison.
Okay. All right, everyone. It's been a long time since I've led a little meditation, but I used to be a yoga teacher a million years ago. So I'm going to have you sit up nice and straight, or you can stand, but if you want to do it in your chairs, it's probably the easiest. So we want to put our ankles in line with our knees in line with our hips. You want to sit up nice and tall. You want to rotate your shoulders so that your palms are facing forward. And you can either let them hang by your sides, or you can rest them in your lap, one hand inside the other. And I'm going to have you close your eyes, and we're going to do something called 3-part breathing. You can put one hand on the belly if you like, but what we're going to do is we're going to inhale and we're going to fill our bellies first. So nice deep inhale, filling up the belly, then filling the lower rib cage, and then filling the upper rib cage. Nice deep inhale. And as you exhale, just gently open the mouth a little bit and let that air out. Relax it, relax, and let the air just come out naturally. And at the end of the breath, use your belly muscles to squeeze out that last little bit of air. And we're going to try 2 more nice deep inhales. Nice deep inhale, inhale, fill up the belly, fill up the lower rib cage, fill up the upper chest, and then gently open the mouth and exhale, relax and let go. And squeeze that last little bit of air out of the belly. And inhale one more time, nice deep breath, filling up the belly, filling up the rib cage area, filling up the upper chest. And opening the mouth and just relaxing, letting all that air out. And we're going to take a moment just to do a little visualization. It's not very long. We don't have much time, but we're going to create the most beautiful, serene, and tranquil place that you can possibly think of. Maybe it's a place you've been before. A lot of people like to go imagine being in nature. We're just going to take a minute to create that or remember that place where it's peaceful and serene and safe. And then you're going to take time to notice your surroundings. Notice the time of day, the temperature. Is there a breeze gently on your face if you're outside? Notice the smells. Notice the sounds. Notice the colors, how bright and vivid all the colors are. And totally relax in the moment and remember all you have to do is breathe, nothing else. And just bask in your beautiful, safe, serene, happy place. And one more nice deep inhale. We're going to fill up the belly one more time. Fill up the lower rib cage. Fill up the upper rib cage and the chest. Gently open the mouth and relax and let all that air out. And come back to the present moment. And I'll turn the time back over to you, Betsy.
Thank you. That's very nice and relaxing. I was by the seashore. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, I'm going to be driving, so I'm going to mute myself, but I hope I can still hear everybody.
Okay, thank you very much for pulling over and giving us the lovely meditation.
No problem.
Thank you. And Linda today is going to share with us a video she made on an excellent video on how to make sauerkraut and ferment. And she's done a great deal of fermentations in different ways. And so after she's finished, if you would go back to the email you got at 5 o'clock or 5:30 and send her some feedback about what you liked in the presentation and any information that was useful or a aha moment and any inspiration and anything that she could be improved, because she's always making improvements. and we all can, one that can never stop making improvements. So, so Linda, carry it on.
Do you want, is she going to give a bio or should I just press play?
Just go ahead.
Okay. Let me know if you can hear.
Hi, my name is Linda, and I am part of Betsy Spraggy to Thrive class. And today we're going to be making sauerkraut. Now, sauerkraut is an amazing thing, and it gives you so many good benefits. And it's packed with nutrients. It's a half a cup of cooked cabbage has about a third the vitamin C for the day. I mean, that's even cooked, so you can imagine raw cabbage, which is what we're going to be using instead of cooked. So it also gives you fiber, folate, potassium, magnesium, vitamin A and K, and so much more. You can ferment it, and it makes it even healthier. Just leave it in its own juices until bacteria starts to feed on it. Sounds gross, but you've probably already eaten it at some point of your life. And it's called sauerkraut. And for a spicier, more exotic version, you can try kimchi, which I'm not that fond of, but I know a lot of people like it. So it's a dish made very popular out of Korea. And so when cabbage ferments, it makes it a natural probiotic that nourishes the bacteria in your gut, which we need to take care of ourselves. And these bacteria helps your body fight germs, take it in nutrients, digest food, and controls anxiety. Can you imagine that? Get away from those pills. So if you eat it raw, it's great for you. Although you get different nutrients if you cook it or ferment it. Raw red cabbage is in particular, might give you the best nutritional boost per serving. Maybe that's why I like it so much. I always like colorful stuff. And let's see, as you can slice it very thin and leave it for about 10 minutes to help bring out the full and most complex flavors. Then add it to salads and sandwiches and turn it into coleslaw, which if I ever have any extra shredded cabbage, that's what I do, turn it into coleslaw. It's loaded with antioxidants. You'll get a good dose of well-known ones like vitamin C and manganese. But cabbage really shines when it comes to plant chemicals called phytonutrients, a cell-protecting force. It's good for inflammation, which a lot of us have that at our age. And cabbage is loaded with lots of chemicals that help ease swelling in your tissue. And it helps with things like linked to cancer, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's. It's good for your digestion. And it has 1 gram of fiber for every 10 calories. Also has nutrients that keep the lining of your stomach and intestines strong. Its juice can help with stomach ulcers, which a lot of people have, and they can help you heal. So it can be especially helpful for the heart. It helps to raise levels of beta carotene, lutein, and other heart protective antioxidants. It also helps lower something called oxidized LDL, which is linked to hardening of the arteries. And since it eases inflammation, it can help prevent heart disease. That's nice to know. And it may also help keep cancer away, the vegetables with all of it. Sulfur-containing substances that help turn the cancer into cancer fighting. So it's got a lot of stuff, and it can also help with type 2 diabetes, and it's very flexible. Because you can have it and serve it in many, many ways. The other night I went out for dinner, and they actually served it on our burger, which we actually had a Beyond Burger. But anyway, so the sauerkraut recipe that we're doing today, it's going to be red cabbage instead of green. I always like red cabbage. And I'm using pickling salt here, which is the Celtic sea salt, but you can use scalar salt, you can use pink salt. I don't try any other salt other than those 3. And you're also going to need a clean and sterilized jar. So make sure it's glass and clean and sterilized. And just a note, I went to do a few jars earlier today, and the jars were cool. And when I put them in the hot water, the first one, it cracked. So that one had to be thrown out. So what I did was I warmed the glass up first before I put it in the hot water to sterilize. So just gives you a head up on that one. And so we are going to be using our perfect pickler today. which comes with all kinds of great stuff that you can use. We have an airlock, which comes with a top that you can put on it, so that keeps the stuff inside so nothing comes out. That's the airlock. And then we have a little stainless steel cup, which is going to be used. And I'll show you how that's all going to be used. And then we have our cover, which has a little hole here, which is where this airlock is going to be fitting into. And it has a gasket on the back of it that can come out. So just make sure that when you put it back in, that you are not covering the hole. That's where the airlock's going to be. And if you cover the hole, you can't get anything through. So we open that hole up so you can keep it open like that. So that's what's in the Perfect Pickler. And it also comes with a recipe book. And I recommend looking in here because there's always so many great recipes. The one I'm using in here, actually I'm using one in here. And it is going to be, it calls for green cabbage, but I'm using red, but it also calls caraway seeds. And I thought I might give that a try tonight, and also with sea salt. So, and brine, what I do with brine is I make up my brine in advance, a little bit of hot water, go over here, a little bit of hot water, and the salt. Once it's cooled, then if I need to add it into the container to make sure that we have enough of the brine in there so it covers all of the sauerkraut. That's what you want to make sure you do. So without further ado, sauerkraut's great. And I'm going to, as I'm talking, I am going to show you what I'm doing. I have the red cabbage. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a spot around some cabbage rounds because I'm going to be using them when I go to put all the cabbage in the jar. You want to make sure that you have a way to hold the cup down that's going to be against the bottom of the top of the cabbage. So when you make a rounds out of the cabbage, then you're just using the same element of what's going in the container. So that's what you want to do, keep it all the same element. So I'm going to turn this down a little bit so you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to put this on here, and I am going to cut out around here. So I already started a little bit earlier, so let me just finish the rest of the one here. I usually like at least 3 or 4 pieces because, you know, you put them in a little different. So I got 3 pieces here. And then as you can see, it just leaves a little hole here. So no big deal. But I like to do that because it gives us what we need. See if I can get one more out of this. We eat this part as well. There we go. Okay. There we go. So that's all set for that. So we eat that part. And then the next thing we do is we cut it up. And I'm not going to use, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using my Cuisinart. Because it's here. I do cut it up a lot of times, but this time today, for time purposes, I'm going to be using the Cuisinart. It can be very loud. Okay. And we turn it on. And we just cut it up in 2 pieces. I just cut it up so that it would be big enough to fit in the chute of my Cuisinart. And we're shredding it up. Everybody likes it differently. Some people like it cut it by hand. One last piece. Two last pieces. Okay. Not really. So really nicely shredded. I've made it smaller and I've made it larger. You just figure out what works for you. I have graters that I use on my Cuisinart and so many other different things. So, next thing we're going to do is we are going to add some salt, and then we are going to do a little massaging. To speed things along, there we go. Okay. Now we add some salt. Okay. And we massage. Okay. And to speed things along, I actually did a little bit earlier. So, because sometimes it takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and I don't think you want to wait while I work on that. So I actually had my husband help me, and we put this together, and I threw some carrots in. Because as I said, you can add all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I add garlic, sometimes I add carrots, sometimes I add onions, sometimes I add all of that. So, let me just clean this off a little bit here. And I forgot to put the caraway seeds in, which is what I want to do now. So, calls for about a half teaspoon of caraway seeds. So I'm going to put them in. There we go. Add a little more. Give a new try. And then go back and put all that stuff in. The key is just to have it so it gets wet, really wet. And there's a lot of juice, so you can see the juice as I squeeze. You can see the juice coming out, and that's what you want. Okay. There we go. And now we're going to take our jar. Squeeze up here. Now we're going to take our jar, and we're going to start putting it in to the jar. So, one second, I got one thing that'll help me get that in easier. There we go. That goes in a lot easier that way. Yeah. So you put a little in, after you've had it, after you've massaged it. And when you massage it, you want to massage it so it goes right down, really down. Now we're just pushing it in with my hand because you want to, it's kind of like more massaging, I guess you would call it. You want to push it in, and I use my hands a lot when I'm making stuff. It's only for my house. If I was making it for other people, I would probably use gloves. And even though the carrots are, you can see the carrots now, you won't be able to see them once this is all done because they actually take on the color of it all. You can see the brine coming up there. Yeah, that's what you want. You want as much of the brine as you can. Stays all in. And you want to fill it till it's about just below the top once you've got it really pushed out. Keep on going. And there are some times that I have a lot left over and some left over, depending, because it's kind of hard to always figure out whether you're going to need a large jar or a small jar. So, or one in between, which is another thing too. Sometimes I always, when I do this, I always do the half-gallon size, the quart, and the pint size. I always get those ready in case I'm going to need them while I'm doing this. So, just enough. Down, down. If you get any brine in the bowl, pour it in because that's the stuff you want in your, you want the brine in here. You definitely want the brine in here. Let me see. So you get some hands-on kind of thing. But as I said, if I was making this for other people, I would definitely wear gloves. So I'm going to get the rest of this and put it in here. That should be it. It looks up high. It really won't be once you get the thing in there. Okay, so that's all we have in there. So now we're going to take our pieces, our little round pieces that we had earlier, and we're going to fit them in here so that they're covering all this good stuff down below, and so that none of it gets up above. That's the key. None of it gets up above. You want to keep it so the brine stays down. So you can see, pushing it down with my fingers. So, and with that, what happens next is this goes in, and this isn't up high enough. Let me see, it needs to be up a little higher. So let me take some of that other cabbage that we had over there that hasn't been worked on and add that. I think it's going to make a lot of difference at this point. We just need to make sure that we get plenty of the stuff down. And then not going to work let's check it. Yeah, no, need a little more, just a little more. There we go. Now that might work. There we go. Some of the ones I've used, you don't have to fill it this high. They have, I just ordered some weights today. Okay, let's put these back in. And the weights would do the job of holding it down under the brine, which is what it is now, as you can see. And now we're going to put the cover on. Let me wipe that off. My hands are covered and stuff. Okay. And we push this in like this. And we push the cover down and close that like that. Can be a messy job. As you can see, I'm kind of covered in this. And next we do is we take this airlock and we put some water into it. Now, I use filtered water, and that's what you need. And you only want to fill it up to the line. It's got a line. I don't know if you can see the line. Just fill it to the line. No more than the line. And then you put it in that whole thing, in the gasket thing, the grommet. And there you go. And there you have the perfect pickler. Okay. Now I've used different kinds of pickling. I just this year, a couple months ago, I actually bought myself a cloth, which I have in the back here. Let me show it to you. Oh, take this out of the way. And I'm going to be opening this weekend. I haven't opened it and tried it since then. So I'm excited about that. This is called a water seal cloth. And this holds about a gallon of sauerkraut. And also I've been doing a little bit of research. I also found a different kind of airlock. This is called a 3 type of airlock, and a lot of brewers use it, a 3-piece airlock. And it has, you put water in it to the line, put that cover in, and you put that on top. Also, I've been trying with this one here. It's called the Easy Fermenter, and this has covers. I don't know if I have any still in here. This has covers. Oh, I do have one in here. And you utilize this to make your sauerkraut wilt as well. It goes into the top here. And the glass weights really work well with this. That's why I bought the glass weights, because I wanted to try them. And this comes with a an air thing that you take air out with. So it's really neat. It's just something I've just been trying recently. But the Perfect Pickler works. It's a great product. And I hope you all enjoy it. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Does anybody know if there's like a DIY way to do that without buying an airlock, or is that a key part of the whole process?
The way I've done it, before this came out, the Perfect Pickler, is to take some sea rocks, nice smooth sea rocks that you can fit to the top of the jar, and after you put the cabbage in, you do everything she said, and then you put then you put the saline solution in, and then you put the pieces of cabbage across the top, and then you put the rocks in, and then you tighten the top of the mason jar, and you can do it that way.
What does that do? It just keeps it really squished down?
Yeah, really push.
You need to burp it though. You want to burp it every couple of days to put it in like a pie plate or something. So if it overflows, it's not going to get all over your counter.
But I've never had to burp it. So anyway.
I'll do a little research, but that's interesting.
For myself.
I
There's
thought,
also another DIY that I've done is you can buy those airlocks at a beer outlet, either a do-it-yourself beer place or get them online, and they're about anywhere from 25 cents to $1 a piece. And you can get like I have an insert for a ball jar that is like you can use it like a sippy cup or put a straw in it, and you can jam it into the straw hole and do the exact same thing. So you can make a perfect pickler yourself for about $2 or something. All you have to buy more parts of you make 4 or 5 of them.
I'll have to look at.
It doesn't have the gasket.
No,
The,
okay.
the stones, when you have put the stones in, they don't always work. Sometimes the systems go bad. But the perfect pickler is
Right, and some
perfect pickler because they have always come out perfectly. And I have a
That's
few
right.
of them. Anybody
and
want?
Gaskets are
Yeah.
hard to find. I will say that. The Perfect Pickler has the gaskets, and I haven't been able
Yeah.
to locate any kind of gaskets that are like theirs. They have different ones like silicone and things, but I'm not sure if I really want to use that. I like the rubber one that they use with the Perfect Pickler.
How do you know if it's gone wrong? Does it taste kind of bad in a way that you'll know?
You will know if it's bad. I've never had, as long as you follow, you make sure your jars are sterilized. That is the biggest thing. You make sure everything you put in the jar, the little metal cup, you sterilize everything you can, just quickly, of course. I will say the airlock won't melt, but it doesn't do well in hot water. So you could just want to immerse that in hot water quickly and take it out. But I just sterilize everything, and I had one batch I thought went wrong on me and I wasn't sure. So I threw the whole thing away, and then I thought about it afterwards and I kind of kicked myself because it probably wasn't bad. I didn't know enough at that time.
I know. I mean, sauerkraut's pretty sour, so.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I will say that there is a difference because when I did it in the crock I left it in the crock for about 3 months. And I found that I really enjoyed that sauerkraut a lot more than I did when I left it in just the jar for a couple of weeks. So I have about 4 containers on my sideboard right now that are filled with sauerkraut. And I'm going to let them go for as long as I can, a month or 2, and in the glass container. So, but we use sauerkraut all the time. We probably go through about a quart a week.
Wow.
We eat it every day, and that's for 2 people. That's my husband and myself, and I love it. And I'm so grateful that I learned how to make it because I have found that the type of stuff you buy in the supermarket does not compare at all to what you can make yourself. So I always prefer to make it and keep a steady batch going. So I always have it on hand.
It's highly recommended to have 2 tablespoons at lunch and 2 tablespoons at supper for your
Yep.
probiotics. And when I do them, if I use the rocks from the sea, I'm sure that I boil them well. And I also boil my jars and the tops in water to really be sure that they're really clean.
Mhm.
I watched an interesting. Am I
Go ahead.
muted? Am I
No,
muted?
you're set. Go.
Okay. It's Jane. I watched an interesting video done Zoom done by the people that do Real Pickle.
Yes, real pickles are really great.
Real Pickle is one of the fermenting. And they did the Zoom with Deborah's Natural Gourmet, the store in West Concord.
Huh? Real
And
pickles.
it's probably in her archives. And it was interesting because it was kind of a bare bones. They just had you, instead of a pickler or anything, they had you use a food scale. And they said, go 5, must be 5 ounces of cabbage, and just shove it in the small mason jar. So it was a really different, and exactly, Linda, they were talking about really the taste, as you just mentioned, really aging it short versus really long. can really be very different. So,
In some countries in Eastern Europe, they have a corner of their kitchen with sort of wooded off as a square, and they put all the rest of the compost in there, all the different vegetables, and they just squish it down and it ferments. The different stuff that the salts that they put in it, so forth. So they're all different ways. It's been going on since earliest time. It's the Egyptian. So it's really important to have fermented vegetables. It's the way of preserving them. It's really great.
And it's excellent probiotic.
Yeah.
mm,
When I lived with Ann Wigmore, we actually had compost right in the kitchen. And she actually introduced worms, earthworms, to really make the compost from the garbage. It was amazing. They made the earth for us to plant the wheatgrass and everything in. But I was also going to say, when I studied macrobiotics, they sold us a pickle press, which was made of plastic. So most people would probably object to that nowadays. But it was a press where you could turn the top and it would push down and down and down like a plunger as the pickles were being made. So that was another device. But I prefer glass. I think the glass jar is a much better idea, or the crock pot. And I grew up in a Victorian home, so there were actually crock pots in the attic that probably were there since the early 1900s that they used back in the day. Anyway, for what it's worth.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
the tips. That's better.
My next crock pot will be a much larger one. Yes, because it only, I mean, I can only pull out 4 quarts, so that's about a year, about maybe a month and a half's worth of sauerkraut. So I fill it right up again as soon as I've removed it. I clean it and fill it right up again, and because I'm always doing something with the sauerkraut. So, but my next one will definitely probably be a 5-gallon container.
Woo!
wow.
And that'll be a lot of sauerkraut. That'll be a lot of cabbage one day when I have to cut it all up. But it is definitely well worth it. I was in Alaska, Susan, a couple of years ago. I spent 7 weeks in Alaska, up in Talkeetna. I have a cousin up there, and she had a friend of hers, Klaus. He actually makes his own sauerkraut. Showed me how he does it and he uses a great big one as well, a great big 5-gallon or maybe even more than 5 gallons. I'm not sure, but he showed me he's got this great big thing that he cuts it up with, and he grows all of his own cabbage, of course. But he actually gave me some sauerkraut that was 2 years old, and it was delicious. It was delicious.
Wow.
It was soft. It wasn't, because it breaks down all the stuff in the cabbage, so it gets much softer over time. So, but it is definitely well worth it, even if you don't do a large amount. It's a lot better than what you can buy in the supermarket. I can guarantee that.
Betsy, you're muted, by the way.
Pardon me?
Betsy is muted. I just want to let her know. I see you trying to talk.
Betsy, you're muted.
You're muted. We can't hear you.
I think she might be on a call.
Oh, that's confusing.
Oh yeah, she's probably is on a call.
Got
Yeah.
it.
So Linda, is that an Easter tree behind you?
Yeah.
Good eye.
Oh, my husband, he could take it down last week. He just hasn't done it yet. So
Yeah.
the Christmas tree. So yeah, I like the lights. So
Good for
every now
you.
and then I'll put it on.
With COVID, we need the Christmas trees year round, right?
We do. We need to
Yeah.
have that joy. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. So are there any other questions that I can answer for you all?
Linda,
What were
do you
the
have any-
names of the other ones, Linda? Perfect Pickler, and then Water Seal Crock, and then your 3-piece airlock was one of the names?
Yes, the 3-piece airlock is the one that I actually bought, as Samantha mentioned, at a brewing place. I found a place down in Braintree, down in some industrial park one day. We rode down and I bought a few of those. I gave one to Betsy because she came over the following week, so I gave it to her to try. But yeah.
You mentioned to make brine in advance, and then, but you put clear water in that. What
I
was it
did.
called?
I put the clear water in the airlock.
Yeah.
But what I do is, you never know. You want to make sure that everything is covered, that
when I push down that metal container, that little cup, you want to make sure that everything below it is covered in brine. And if you don't have enough brine from when you've massaged your kale, you need to add where I had done the hot water and the salt. You
Yeah.
need to add that in, as you know, to make sure that you have that level, because you have to, in order to keep it so it doesn't go bad, you have to keep the fermentation below all the cabbage leaves that I put on the top.
Okay.
So that the bottom of the metal cup, there's a little bit of, you can see that there's a little bit of the brine that will come up to the bottom of the cup. But you want to make sure everything is immersed below the brine in order for it to come out right.
Thank you.
And I keep the extra, and I'll put it in the refrigerator, the extra salt water that I have. And then in a few days, I check it to make sure everything is still below. You still have to check it. You can't like not check it. Even with the air crock I have, the water seal, I have to make sure that there's always water on the top of that to make sure that the seal is right. So it's a work in progress, but you have to keep track of it.
Thank you so much.
Linda, have you ever had a
I think we better move on if that's okay.
If anyone wants to send me anything in chat, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The homework for next week is a review. If you've already watched them, that's great. But if you haven't watched these videos, because the panel is next week is on cancer, as cancer is not a disease. But there are two videos, Healing Cancer and Cancer, the Forbidden Cures. And so do watch those. And next week, Linda Brunini is unable to be on the panel because they're traveling in an RV and it doesn't have reception all the time. You couldn't count on it. But Paul Handrahan has been very kind to fill in at the last moment today. And so you'll have both Handrahans, both Linda and Paul, who have been challenged with cancer. So we're going to move on. We welcome Joe Lucier, and I'm going to have Joe give his own bio, which is wonderful, because he does, I won't do it justice. So Joe, we welcome you. Joe, I saw you there a minute ago.
Are you muted?
I'm not muted now. Can you hear me?
Great. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Can you see me?
And now we can see, we'll take down the slide, and then you can just tell us the information, okay? About your background.
Sure thing. I'll just tell about myself, and then Betsy will give me, after I speak, Betsy will explain the course or the subject for tonight, but I'll give my own introduction, and we'll get going. For people that don't know me, my name is Joseph Lucier. I've been doing plant-based nutrition 30 to 40 years, raw vegan about 20 years, and it is mostly based upon the style of Hippocrates and Wigmore and natural hygiene. So it's kind of a combination of both of those. But the main thing that I wanted to talk to everybody about today is my personal background is that I've studied plant-based nutrition, the Ann Wigmore program in Atlanta, as well as Arizona, because it's a very effective way to help people heal. So for myself, I've been a medical massage therapist for about 25 years, working with a specific healing called the TAM healing system. I'm also an herbalist and a very strong believer in the healing power of plant-based nutrition, all of the things that you're learning. And as I broke in, I heard you talking about fermented foods and the techniques. And I was like, oh man, I wish I got in earlier to hear all that stuff. It sounded great. But fermented foods are awesome. Fermented foods are healing food. They're amazing. They're magic. And if you can make your own, it's a live food. That's what they talk about for live food, you know, as opposed to just raw food, but it's live food. It's a living type of food. So again, from my own background, in a nutshell, how I got to this place right here, where we are now. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I went to school in Boston for high school and for college. And then I studied Chinese. My first career, I was a Chinese translator. I lived in Asia for about 15 years. Then I got interested in computers and I became a software engineer. And then I returned to the United States, worked in software engineering. But at one point, there was kind of a conflict where I wanted to do a holistic lifestyle or a corporate American lifestyle. And the fact that I'm sitting here now tells you who won. So the holistic lifestyle won out. And eventually I was actually laid off, which was great because I had already made a decision to move on. And I lived in Arizona for 3 months with Gabriel Cousins' organization there for 3 months to try to immerse myself in the plant-based diet. So I wanted to really get involved in this, just as you're doing with Betsy. And I've known Betsy for very long time. I make a commitment to support Betsy in whatever she does as she spreads this healing modality, this healing living foods. And then, so where I am now is I worked in 3 clinics, at least 3 clinics when the pandemic hit. And what I did is COVID closed them all. So I lost that practice. But a good thing to think about in life is when one door closes, I think at least 2 to 10 doors open, and you just got to pick the right one. So I've created a virtual wellness center. I wanted to continue doing the healing work, the food, and the Tong Ren, which you're all going to experience in a few moments, which is international kind of distance healing technique. So that's basically my background. I've created a virtual clinic. I've been able to scale up my healing interaction with people. I have an international audience, which has always kind of driven me when I teach Tong Ren, as I'm going to be teaching this Saturday. For example, this Saturday we have, I think, 15 people, and there are people from Chile. We had people before from Greece, Malaysia, France, Germany. So the key is the mindset of what we're talking about with Betsy and everything is kind of a healing without borders, which is kind of my mindset of what I want to do. And the talk today is about, life force energy, which is non-geographical, non-political, ethnic, gender, all those things. Those are insignificant because we are a human village, a human community. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. So that's how I get to this place right here. And long story short, Betsy and I met with her interest to promote raw foods at a raw food meetup quite a few years ago. And then we've been working together on many aspects of life for quite a while. So what I want to do is let Betsy explain the course, the subject matter for today. And then what I wanted to do is go through that subject matter, kind of bring it all together for what you guys are going through. First thing I'd like to say is congratulations to all of you for making such a commitment for your health. Having been a practitioner for about 25 years, a lot of people don't make that commitment. A lot of people, out of fear and out of different things, they actually don't make that commitment. So that's brave. And I give you all the maximum amount of credit and kudos for doing that. And I just want you to know that for myself and Betsy, that I support all of you here as we go forward on our healing journeys, because you truly can liberate yourself from medicines, allopathic surgeries. You can be free of all of that stuff. You can take charge of your life. I've done it. I haven't taken medicines. I don't know when I've taken, how many decades it's been. And many of these things, there are healthy, natural alternatives without side effects. And the foods that you're taking, that you're learning about, they're medicines and they work. I use them with my patients, including cancer patients. So that's about all I have to say. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. Betsy will give the subject, the course title of what I'm going to be talking about, and then I'll speak briefly on that. Then we'll have a little demonstration about Tong Ren, which is a distance healing, which in many ways is a demonstration of how we are all connected energetically. And then at the end of that, we'll take questions, and then I'm happy to answer questions on any topic that you might have. So Betsy, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. I want to show the next slide. I think that
Can you guys see the slides?
Now we can.
You can?
Yeah, I
Okay,
just want to say that Joe is running a wonderful cleansing program, which I think that you've heard Cheryl and Tara and Jeff and I think there was somebody else. Oh, Ben talk about, and I've taken it too. That it's really a marvelous cleanse that you can do, and it doesn't interrupt your work or anything else. And he's offering another section of it at May 22nd. And he's written 9 amazing books, which I'm going to have him briefly tell about in a second. His latest one, which I haven't read yet, is the Anasara Path to Wellness. I'm looking forward to that one. His website is anasarawellness.com, and on Fridays at is it at 2 or 1 o'clock? What time?
the live streaming is at 2 o'clock on Fridays. And then there's Tongren on Thursdays at 6, just before this. But 2 o'clock, I created a live stream Q&A. And I've also joined in with a group called Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group. So I'm there every Friday at 2 p.m. to answer any question you might have about plant-based nutrition, the meaning of life, sourcing. I know a lot of sources for foods and stuff like that, all these different things. But the first Friday of each month is actually dedicated to the PBNSG, which is a community, a national community of people. And then I have interviews. I interviewed the clay person. I interviewed Betsy and different people like that. So that's a service that I try to do to be available to answer questions for people.
And Thursday night's a wonderful experience for the Tongren. It's really amazing. He's going to introduce that to us tonight. So would you go to the next slide? He's written 5 amazing books, and I just wanted him to just speak briefly about each one. Then they're available on his website.
Okay, basically the books are an extension of what I needed to do for my patients and also for myself to learn more stuff. So the third book there is about the healing system that I use, which is the TAM healing system. And as I said, I was an engineer, so I had to question everything. We were doing this unusual healing system. So I analyzed it from a very logical perspective, and I kind of proved it true to be very scientific and very true and very healing. And it's about bioelectricity, which is the other book. And the first 2 books are, I don't know, maybe we can have a show of hands. Has anybody asked, where do you get your protein? Does anybody ask you that question? All right, so I hand them that book, number 2. So, this is 101 pieces of data that says why plant-based nutrition is good, where you get your protein, because in case people don't know it, everything has protein in it, and you don't need a lot if you're healthy. So, and if you get too much of it, it can cause cancer. So that's the bottom line of protein. So these books are basically data, and I hand them off to people so that they can have a bunch of scientific facts about, from Harvard, Brown University, BU, all the different scientific organizations, the USDA, that say eating plant-based is healthy, eating plant-based prevents disease. And this is the science, peer-reviewed science, and that's what those 2 are about. So let's see what the next ones are, Betsy.
Next slide. This book is wonderful, the avocado book. It's everything you could possibly know about an avocado, and wonderful recipes and beautiful pictures.
Okay, that's a great story and a great kind of a message to people. I wrote a few articles. I was doing some recipes on avocados, and then I said, well, I'd like to make it look better and have better recipes. So then I worked with my teachers. I worked in the Tree of Life in Arizona for 3 months with some master chefs. They were our teachers. So I worked in the living chef kitchen for 3 months. And they were really good with avocados. And one of them was from New Zealand, so we knew a lot about avocados. So I said to myself, well, I'd like to have some more recipes. So I talked to them. I said, oh, I got some cool recipes. Then I says, wow, I took some pictures and they look terrible. So I said, I want to have some better pictures. So I hired a really cool photographer, yoga instructor, photographer. Then I said, well, I really want to put this together and people need to have some history. So bottom, end of story, I put together this big book with over 100, probably 20 recipes on avocados, and the history, the science of why it's good and all that stuff. So that was my obsession with avocados. It kind of grew and grew into that. And then the other book's The Nature of Cancer. So Betsy mentioned earlier about what cancer is, and this is something I'd like to touch on as well. It's important to understand that cancer is not a lack of chemotherapy. Cancer is not a lack of radiation. Cancer is a lack of oxygen. And even in the most recent history, in 1931, Otto Warburg, who's very famous for defining what cancer is as an oxygen deficiency in the body. In 2018 and 2019, Nobel Prize winners again proved it to be true. So if you think of it, what's the logic? Because this is good for everybody here to understand what you're doing is actually anti-cancer. So cancer is a hypoxia, a lack of oxygen, a trigger to the genes to keep us from dying from a lack of oxygen. So everybody here knows that if you don't breathe for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, or even 2 minutes, you may die. So the body understands that to be the number one critical way to have a message, a trigger for survival. It's a survival challenge. It's the biggest survival challenge. So the key is the food that you're preparing, the food that you're studying right now with Betsy is alkaline. Alkaline foods generate more oxygen. They reduce inflammation. All of these three things increase bioelectricity and voltage in the body. This is consistent with Nobel Prize winners, 3 at least, that proved what cancer is. Cancer is a lack of oxygen. There was a great, and I won't detract so much, but this is important for everybody to know. There was a great test. They took a cell, they took away the oxygen, it reverted to a cancer cell. Why? Because it's a survival challenge. It was deficient in oxygen. They added back the oxygen within 48 hours, it was a normal cell again. That's the mindset of your body. The book, The Nature of Cancer, is what that's all about. It tells the science. As an engineer, I have to prove things with peer-reviewed science to be true. I think it has 1,000 citations in it to prove what the peer-reviewed scientists said, what the food that you're eating is true. Even the broccoli sprouts, if you research broccoli sprouts, there's an ingredient in there called sulforaphane, which is highly alkalizing. The other aspect of all the healing that you're doing is the other side. Nutrients in, toxins out. That's the math. Nutrients in, oxygen in, toxins out of the cell. That's called healing. And that's how we reverse disease. So the cleanse, as Betsy mentioned, is to accelerate the toxins out. The food that you're eating is to accelerate the toxins in. It's really that straightforward. It doesn't always work instantly. It takes work and time because our mind is also involved in that. So I'll just mention the last 2 books real quickly, and then we'll move on to my topic, which is Life Force Energy from a body, mind, and spirit perspective of life. So the truth about depression is basically, so you understand, 80 to 90% of our neurotransmitters are in our gut. Serotonin is our happy hormone. If you have constipation or poor digestion and you don't eat enough of those great things that they were talking about, Linda was talking about in terms of fermentation, that will create neurotoxins, happy hormone in your gut. That will reduce depression. Taking drugs to overcome the brain, which isn't involved in the serotonin production, is a fix that isn't realistic with the natural harmony of our own body. And the last book there, The Path to Wellness, is this path that you're doing. Plant-based nutrition, detoxing, good water, community. reducing inflammation, reducing toxicity, increasing nutrient-dense foods. Congratulations, everybody. You graduated from the School of Common Sense.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. Now I allow you to begin.
Okay. So with that said, I'll continue on. I'm actually going to turn this off so that you don't have that big zombie look in my glasses there. So the topic today, and I won't take a whole lot of time because you may have a lot of questions, is life force energy from a body, mind, and spirit perspective. So the key to understand is the food that you're making today has the highest biophotonic energy. What does that mean? If you didn't realize it before, you should realize it now. You have a relationship with the sun. You have a relationship with the earth. You have a relationship with your food, and you have a relationship with your community. The extent and the quality of the energy that you gather from that is how we live our lives. That is called life force energy. It is consistent with everything that I just told you about. And the life force energy from the sun is called bio, life, photon, energy, light from the sun. And of course, we are dependent on the sun. We can make vitamins or hormone type vitamins called vitamin D3 from the sun. We don't get sun, we don't live. So we are interdependent with a planet or a sun that's, as a very famous president once said, a gazillion miles away, right? So that's our interdependence of life force energy. The bottom line of what I'm saying is life force energy is in everything. Everything is connected. In Buddhism, we call it oneness. Another definition of it is universal energy. And from a human perspective, from cohesive consciousness, what really brings us together is the life force energy of human compassion and the heart-connected qualities of human existence. So everything like this, or everything has or had life force energy to an extent. But for humans, the evolution of our consciousness is connected to the highest level of life force energy, which is also universal. It's the universal, the oneness of Buddha, the oneness of compassion. Everybody here we're speaking to right now understands, is embraced, is compassion, love, and kindness. Everybody here has no separation. There is no separation. My compassion is your compassion. Okay? That's where we are. That's life force energy, body, mind, and spirit. So in terms of energy, the food that you have encourages that. Spiritual community increases that energy. When you're with a good group of people and they're all happy, it's contagious. It's because we're sharing that good energy. If there's somebody in the room that's kind of not happy or they're a downer, well, that can create an energetic shift in that room. But how do we transform our lives? How do we do these different things to live a healthy life, integrating body, mind, and spirit? From the human perspective, it's called transformation. It has a two-part process, reflection and transformation, because we must work on our mind, because as humans, we have kind of an ego, we have an attachment, we have all this other stuff that can cause resistance to the universal values of things like compassion, love, and kindness. So we can create resistance. As the Buddha also said, and I'm quoting the Buddha, but all religions have this in common. He says, our mind is our reality. What we think creates our truth. And a better way to think about that is our relationship with everything and our mindset creates the truth. So if we see someone and we don't even know them and we have a thought of love with them, That's our mindset of love. If we see someone and we judge them, our mindset has created an event of judgment. But guess what? The person we're looking at hasn't changed. Only our relationship with that person has changed. Our mindset has changed. So in the human realm of everything that we live, we have the opportunity to change that through transformation. We reflect and say, do I really want to judge that person? No, I don't want to judge that person. Let's change that energy to love. So I think, oh, I think love is better than judgment. So I'm going to have a loving kindness perspective to that person. My mind has done some work and we've transformed negative energy into positive energy. That's the power of transformation in human consciousness. So that's how we integrate these different things. There is no separation between body, mind, and spirit. But we want to remove resistance. Resistance like judging people, or resistance like eating junk food. All these different things cause resistance. They should give us a moment of pause to think, reflect, and transform. And guess what? We can transform everything. So to give a really good example, we had a pandemic, or we still have sort of a pandemic, about 13 months ago. From my perspective, I came back, I was working in New York. I came back, it wasn't formally diagnosed, but I had COVID. I got very sick and I got through it. But all of my clinics, all of my work shut down. So for a couple of months, I had to reflect on what I want to do with the rest of my life because I've always been so independent, self-employed. So I thought, what am I going to do? So in a way, I wouldn't call it depression, but I would say it's a little bit of apathy and a lack of motivation for a little bit of while, but that doesn't last very long with me. If you think about my history, living all over the world, being an engineer, writing books and all these things. So I actually stopped shaving. I just kind of went into isolation. There's a few pictures of me. I have a couple because I thought it was pretty funny, but I stopped shaving, stopped cutting my hair, just kind of went into, as I call it, grunge mode. But then I picked myself up. And there were two opportunities that came out of that. Because every crisis, especially if you get support and community and you really have faith, it's not religion, it's faith that things will get better. The first opportunity was the fact that I'm a caregiver for a parent in my house. She's 95. And yes, she is plant-based. And she's living in my house, so I get to take care of her, but I'm home more. So that's an opportunity because I made a commitment. I literally got this house for her so I can take care of her as she gets older, just as she took care of me when I was a kid for such a long time. So that was a kind of a forced opportunity that I didn't realize, but it's okay because I was usually leaving, coming and going. So that's one opportunity. So I reflected, said, well, this is really a good opportunity to spend more time with her. So then financially, that kicked in. So I said to myself, what can I do to continue with the healing, with the writing, with the community work, the spiritual work? So I created an international wellness center. I do international workshops, and I wrote another book. And now the opportunity is that through Zoom, my audience is bigger than ever. Before I would do massage therapy treatments, I would physically teach 10 to 12 people one by one. I would treat people with massage one by one. I can do healing with Tongren that we're going to learn about, and I won't take too more of your time on my story, but this is to give you an idea of the turning lemons into lemonade. And I would say it's raw lemonade for the sake of our audience here. But my audience is bigger. My workshops are international in scope, which is perfect. I have people from Malaysia, Greece, France, Spain, South America. We have someone from Chile this weekend, Canada, the US. And for me, that suits my company, which my logo, my slogan is called Healing Without Borders. Because as I said before, we are oneness. There are no borders between health and compassion and caring about people. That doesn't exist. You want to help someone? Who cares? Help them. That's what we do as humans. That's the opportunity. So for me, I pulled myself up, got motivated, communicated with the best team I know, a marketing expert, a clay expert, an herbal expert, and I put it all together. And I feel I'm excited about the opportunity and the future, my future, of what I can do. So that's the idea of faith. What I'll tell everybody, don't give up. Do your homework, even cancer. Cancer is not a death sentence. Don't fear cancer, understand it. Do your homework, question everything, and question everything I say. The first quote in my book is, believe nothing that I say unless you really own and have researched the information. But after 25 years of getting input from healing institutes in Spain, from Brian Clement, from healing institutes in Georgia, Arizona, eventually there is a consistency of message. The food is one of those, of course. Raw foods is just the best thing ever. If you're not doing 100% raw, no judgment, do your best. I honor wherever you are on your journey because you are perfect, but you're on a journey and your goal is to get better. So wherever you are, I honor and respect that. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep working on it. That's what life's about. Pick yourself up and move forward and do what you can. So that's what we want to do. We're talking about today. Life force energy is in everything and in everyone. Have faith that nature, all of these good things will support you. And remember, an important thing that I learned in those couple of months of what I would say a little bit of isolation. Don't isolate. Find communities, find people, do stuff, keep busy. Because my tendency, especially when I was younger, is to isolate because it's less pain, right? You don't think about things, you're not being asked questions, you just kind of retreat. So I did retreat for a little while, but then I came out of it. And then the bottom line is, and I'll end here, and then we can start to take questions, is the bottom line is we have been blessed with so many amazing things. And I force myself to be grateful for what I have. I've lived in places where they don't have even a small part of the life that I've enjoyed, or sometimes the food that I have in one day. So we can be grateful for what we have, and that's a positive energy. So mind, body, and spirit. Be empowered, ask questions. That's positive energy. Eat good food, life force energy types of food. That is positive energy. Be involved in spiritual activity, which has no division, no boundaries or borders. All religions have a core essence of beauty and values that are core. On top of that, there are oftentimes many cultural things which grow on top of that, but at the core of all religions is the essence of compassion, love, kindness, and community. So that gives us the opportunity to love everyone from every religion. And that's how we should live our lives. So mind, body, and spirit. In our physical body alone, the number one thing is to remember is remove resistance. Resistance in our mind is attachment, the ego, stubbornness, judgment. Those will not feed you, nourish you spiritually or physically long term. We know that negative thoughts create negative instances in the body. And we know that trauma and anger, we get, as they say, issues are in the tissues, right? So we want to work on making happy energy in the body. So do your exercise. Yoga is crazy good. Tai Chi trend. I've studied Tai Chi all over the world. That's a great thing. Right now, I have a strong interest in yoga. I've become a yoga instructor, also study yin yoga, because it's, number one, it's very nourishing. And number two, it's easy to use as examples for my practice. I would oftentimes give kids yoga for homework. I couldn't tell them to go home and do Tai Chi, do a 102 form movement of Tai Chi, but I could tell them to go home and do some upward dog, downward dog 100 times a day for a couple of weeks to do some exercise, some stretching, some spinal straightening. That's what, yoga, I find yoga amazing. And it's not just an exercise. Yoga is a science. Yoga is an entire school of nourishment. And in yoga, they integrate mind, body, spirit a lot. That's what yoga is. When you do a yoga practice, you're breathing. The breath is your spirit. The breath increases oxygen. The breath is your consciousness. Breath, breathing, breath work, all of these different things. In yoga, it's integrated. In your live food, it's integrated. All these different things. So again, I think it's important to give everyone credit for the great journey that you've been on and the great choices you've made, food choices. As I always say for myself and for others, every meal is also an opportunity of compassion. Every meal is an opportunity to reduce suffering. So again, you're creating that energy, that momentum for yourself and for others. So I hope I haven't bored everybody here. I hope I've given you some interesting information, and I hope it makes sense about integrating the food. It all works together. And there's certain techniques that I've learned with herbs and cleansing and different things in the food, the healthy foods, which accelerate the healing process. And the healthier our body, the less resistance we have for our mind and our spirit. So when you're sick, you can't really be spiritual as easily as possible, or unless it becomes an opportunity for spiritual enlightenment or different things like that. So what I wanted to do is have kind of a show and tell, if we have time, Betsy, for about 10 minutes for the Tongren. Is that okay, Betsy?
Yes, we have some people that are really suffering from dental work. And so maybe you can have them first, Cheryl and Jeff.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of do a kind of a group thing. I can't see everyone right at this moment. Maybe I have to turn on my monitor to see everyone.
Go
But
together.
we're gonna do a few things, probably 1 minute of each. I see only one, two, I only see one live person, actually, to be honest.
Can you go to gallery where you can see everybody?
Let's see, gallery. Make sure I see. Oh, I wasn't on gallery. You are correct. So there we are. I can see everybody and your name. So I'm going to do a quick treatment for people here. And we'll do, we have about a dozen people. So we'll try to do that by 8:05. If that's okay, is everybody on board with that? We'll do it about 10 or 15 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, because I guess I'm slotted in till about 8:30 for Betsy. So I don't want to overstay my welcome.
Never do.
Okay, great. So let's start with Tara. Hey, Tara. So what I
Hi.
want you to do is just give me a quick, what would be something you would like us to work on for healing?
For healing my right hip.
Right hip. Okay.
Yeah.
And this couldn't be for everybody with right hips.
Yeah. But what I want to do first is one quick experiment, one quick demonstration. If everybody would take a nice deep breath, breathe longer than you breathe in. That's called a relaxation response. There you go. You all look better already. You looked great before, but now you're glowing a little bit more. But what I want you to do is put your hands out in front of you like this. Let me move my camera. Is everybody with me?
Yes.
Give me a nod. I can see the nods easier than I can see.
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Sophia, you with me? Thumbs up. All right, that's even better. So I want everybody to take a deep breath, and I want you to move your hands like this over your arms. I want you to feel universal energy. Take it nice and slow, like you're squeezing toothpaste out of a tube. You go about 2 or 3 inches above, and I'm going to go even further down so you can see just my hands. So imagine you're pushing chi to your fingers. Chi is Chinese for energy. But the word Chinese word for chi is very interesting. It has 2 parts. It literally means rice and air, or glucose and oxygen, the foundation of cellular respiration. So if you give me a little nod, can everybody feel energy without touching your arm?
Yes.
You feeling it?
I feel
Yes.
more on one side than the other, Joe.
One more than one side than the other. Okay. All right. We'll work on that. But that's not uncommon because you have a dominant hand and you do different things.
You can feel the pull.
Okay. So now this is the beginning of the interaction of electromagnetic fields, your hand and your arm. We are electromagnetic beings. Consciousness is information. So is anybody that does not feel chi? Okay. So what I want you to do is to move your fingers like this. And I want to get a feeling from everyone. Can you feel anything moving in a circle? Like
Yes.
your finger down. Can everybody feel it? Can I get a good nod from everyone?
Yes.
You feel it, right?
Yes. And it's
Okay.
also warm.
That's because you're generating energy. You're moving energy. You're literally moving energy within the universe. Okay, so now try the other hand. So I feel like a wind, a pressure, a little tingling. You feel that? That's called chi. That's called energy. And I'm not touching my hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everybody to do me a favor. If you put your hands down and close your eyes, and no cheating, because I can see you all. So now turn your right hand up. Don't open your eyes. Put your right hand up where it was before. Leave it there. And just relax. Don't move anything. Just put your hand out. Don't move your other hand. And just relax. And don't open your eyes. And tell me if you feel anything in your hand now. So you can open your eyes. Can people feel something in their hand? Yes or no? Nobody's.
Yes. I feel a pull.
So you're not doing it now.
I feel
Now
like the
I'm doing
ball.
it. So what does that mean? If you feel energy And most people do, but sometimes you don't, and that's okay. But what that means is I'm sending energy to your hand. Isn't that cool? So I'm actually sending energy to your hand. Well, the great martial artists and the great healers of the world said, well, wait a minute. If I can transmit energy, well, maybe I can target it to a very specific place to open up a blockage or to help people to heal. And that's what distance healing is a lot of times. We actually focus on a very specific area. And we use certain tools, and the tools have nothing to do with it. I just did this without a tool, okay? But I'm gonna use a tool, and if anybody's ever seen this just makes it easy to teach and easy to focus on. It's a kind of a brain focus. So we spoke with Tara earlier, and she said she wants to work on the right hip. So if everybody would sit with your feet flat on the floor, palms face up, and just relax as much as you want. So I'm going to go one by one and give everybody a quick treatment. Usually I spend more time or even as much as an hour, but everybody's going to receive something. So is everybody ready?
Yep.
Do I have your permission?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So for Tara, we're going to do a little bit of work. So this is basically, in our healing system, we open up blockages on the central nervous system because we can take the energy that I just taught you about and focus on a very specific place in the body to remove resistance to allow for healing. And I treat cancer all over the world and different things. And I teach people how to do this. So we work a little bit to do a tune-up, blood flow to the brain. This has all the specific target points. These are healing points. This is not acupuncture. So we work on blood flow down to the spine, to the left hip. Is that right, Tara?
It's the right one.
Right hip?
Yeah.
All right. So we work on two things, blood flow to the right hip and nerve flow, also known as bioelectricity, to the right hip. So everybody can receive some energy, but this is actually targeted right for her.
No, I have right hip issues as well. This is Annie.
Okay, we'll work on you both together.
Me too.
Two
Thank
for
you.
one. You got it. So take a deep breath. A lot of times people feel heat, warmth, and tingling. So like I say, I can do it with my mind or I can do it with a tool that allows me to focus the energy. And then we bring the energy down. How are you feeling, Tara?
I feel good.
We'll do a little more energy on the right hip, left hip for both people. The nerves going to the hips. So just sit, relax, feet flat on the floor. And at the end, we'll do a little bit of a Qigong for everyone. Qigong, if you've ever heard of that word, literally means Qi, energy, gong, work, energy work. It's not that crazy, huh? So we'll work on the hips from the front as well. And then we'll do a little bit of grounding. And for you, Annie, as well. And we'll work on a very sophisticated thing called the ouch point. And grounding. So the goal is to remove resistance and increase energy. Just like you eat a good raw food meal, you're increasing energy in the body so the body can do better work. That's all. A lot the same. So how you guys feeling so far?
I feel good.
Okay, great. So we'll go next to Katie. What can we do for you, Katie?
Oh, like an area of tension or?
They-
Do I pick a specific area?
Yeah, if you have a specific condition like stomach pain or
Mm,
neuropathy or something like that, or maybe you have no ailments, you're in good
I
shape.
would say my lower back gets pretty sore sometimes. Like it's pretty sore right now.
Okay.
So
Is that from your boss, Betsy, making you sit down too much?
could be.
Katie works at Trader Joe's picking up big boxes.
Oh, okay. Yoga. Do more yoga.
Yoga. Okay.
Could you include me on the lower back as well, Joe? Because I just did a day's worth of landscaping and I got a lot of sore points right now.
Okay, so let's have a show of hands. Who wants lower back? Wow. You guys all, okay. Let's do all the lower backs together. And that will help us with time, but we'll do the lower back. So just breathe in, breathe out, relax. So we're gonna do a tune-up for everyone, including the lower back for the specific one. So there are command points in the brain. The brain's got a lot of stuff going on. We initialize the nervous system, the endocrine system. So keep your feet flat on the floor. Blood flow to the brain. And then the blood flow down the spine. So we want to make sure there's enough blood in the area and there's enough nerve flow to the area. And believe it or not, hydration is critical for lower back pain because the discs between the vertebrae are sponges. If you hydrate a lot, they will get bigger and they'll give you more support for your vertebrae. So let's go to the lower back area, which is L1 to L5, lumbar area. I know for myself, I had an L5 slip and it was very, very, very painful. But since I've been doing yoga, I have no more lower back pain. Because what yoga does, it pulls things apart. And the other thing that people need to know about yoga, and Tai Chi and Qigong are excellent too. But when you do yoga and you hold a pose, the longer you hold a pose, the more nourishment you bring to the inner joint and the more lubrication, synovial fluid is added to the joints and the spine in those different areas. So when you do yoga and say in a stretch, it's being lubricated. So lumbar 1 to 5, sacrum 1 to 5. How are you feeling, Annie? Can't hear you.
Oh, me or who?
I still have a little bit of lower back pain on the right side.
Okay, let's go into the right side. I just have to check something. Okay. So you work it from common sense. In the lower back is a whole bunch of nerves, what we call fancy word lumbosacral plexus. That's the lower back and the hip areas. So the people for the hips will also receive a bonus, but we want to work on blood flow to the lower area and nerve flow. Pretty straightforward. And then we'll do grounding. Is anybody feeling any heat, warmth, or tingling or anything like that? That's just the energy moving. And then we just balance out, because if in your body you have a yin yang nervous system. The yang is the fight or flight. The yin is rest or digest. So the back is the yang, fight or flight. The front is the yin or the vagus nerve, the rest and digest or the relaxation response. And grounding for the lower back. And always grounding to bring us back to the earth so we're not too flighty. So how are you guys doing with your lower back area? Doing okay?
Joe, if the vagus nerve is yin, does that mean you should eat yang foods if you're having problems with the vagus nerve?
That's a good question because the vagus nerve activates digestion
Right.
when you're in yin mode. I would say never to really explicitly work on yang foods to balance the yin of the vagus nerve.
Just curious.
But you would want to support it's a really good question. You'd want to support the vagus nerve through things like, vitamin B12, massage therapy in the neck. And if you do some research on the vagus nerve and vagal tone, because there's the gut-brain axis. Does everybody know about that? You have your gut, you have your brain. You've heard of that? The relationship between your gut and your brain?
Mhm.
The wire between that relationship is the vagus nerve. It's the highway between the two. It goes back and forth with information. So that's how you communicate. It even can be responsible for things if you have bad digestion, things get transferred to the brain that relates to Parkinson's and different conditions like that. So you can work on the neck by massaging the neck and the vagus nerve. That's always a good thing. You move to the side and just massage the neck and stuff like that. So that's one way to do it. And there are specific points, and we'll work on the vagus nerve for everyone as we continue. So let's see if we can get another group. We have lower back. Let's see. We have a second Katie. Katie, I was going to say down on the bottom, but you're not. That's relationship to me. So Katie, number 2.
Hi.
Hi.
Actually, for me, it was my left hip and my lower back. So.
Okay, we'll reinforce that some more. We'll keep working on that. And hopefully that feels better. A good way to do it is before the treatment, you say on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your pain? And then after the treatment, we ask again, how's your pain? So see if it's getting any better through the course of what we're doing, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And how about Kathleen Henderson, another Katie sort of? Can't hear you,
I was
Kathleen.
gonna say, yeah, my right shoulder, I just finished physical therapy on it, but it's still not quite healed.
So we want to
thank you.
support it with nourishment, okay? Sounds good.
Thank you.
Blood flow to the brain. Command points of the brain. So on Thursdays at 6 before Betsy, oh, nope. Can't tell you that because you're here at 6. Never mind. When you're not doing Betsy's class at 6 on Thursdays, I do a tongue treatment, usually about 30, 40 people per hour. So let's work on the shoulder area. Can you raise your shoulder, raise your arm and your shoulder? It works okay? Okay, so it's the right area. We work on all the shoulders, the blood areas, the rotator cuff, the shoulder release points. So it's good to relax because that decreases resistance. Sometimes when I do full treatments for people, they do meditate. Why? Less resistance, more energy flow. It looks pretty unusual, but it's based on the idea of oneness from a European perspective, a European kind of cosmology perspective. They call it the collective unconscious, according to Carl Jung. How you doing, Kathleen?
Feels better already. Thank you, Joe.
Yep, I was just watching you stretch, so that's good.
A lot more freedom. Yeah, freedom of movement. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. And we'll work on the scapular area to release that, to give more energy. And the nerves in the shoulders, which is bioelectricity, what we call the brachial plexus, fancy words. And then we want to nourish the whole spine, spinal artery, blood flow, nerve flow, all good. So how's everybody doing? How about some smiling energy from everybody?
It's very relaxing.
Yeah, it's relaxing, right? Everybody's chilling. That's a good thing. Kathleen knows about yoga. She's a yoga instructor. Even has DVDs and videos, and she's an expert. She's even been invited to Thailand to teach yoga, which is pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool when people in Asia ask Americans to go there to teach them yoga. You must be good. And then we just do grounding and circulation, kind of like a tune-up. And grounding, because remember, we have gateways in our bodies. We have gateways in the palm. If any of you are fans of Kung Fu movies like I was, and I still am, you see that they're going like this and throwing balls of fire and stuff like that. It's because there really is energy that comes out of your palms and out of your feet and stuff like that. The Bruce Lee movies, the Chuck Norris movies, all those things. But these are called gateways, and they're different energy gateways in the body. So when we do the grounding to the earth, there's a gateway on the bottom of the feet called kidney 1, and that grounds you to the earth energy.
Joe, it's 12 past. So why don't you do just one more, and what you do for Cheryl and Jeff, their tooth.
Thank you.
So who's got a tooth problem?
Cheryl and Jeff.
Joe, can you hear me?
I can. And we also have
Okay.
Jane. I think
And-
Jane as well. So
Okay.
why don't we do Jane, Cheryl, and Jeff for teeth? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how are your teeth, pain-wise?
Mine's a 9. I'll just talk to me. Mine's a 9. I had a root canal, and it's on the upper jaw, and
right side
pain
of-
the pain radiates up to my ear, and it goes to pressure on my head.
Okay.
Well, focus on her. My pain is minuscule. I'm just dealing with a problem.
Okay. So is it on the right side or left side, Cheryl?
Right side.
How about you, Jeff?
Left side.
We'll do both. So blood flow to the brain, sensory nerves, motor nerves. And then the nerves going to the teeth. They start from the neck. See 3, 4, and 5. If you can see. They come from the neck to the jaw. See 3, 4, and 5. And then what we call the ouch point. where it hurts. Pretty sophisticated word, right? In Chinese, we call it Asher point. Anybody in our audience speak Chinese?
Yeah.
Ni hao ma.
Hao ni na.
I do.
Oh, that was Betsy. Betsy speaks Chinese too.
That was someone else.
So then you work on the actual area. I don't know if everybody knows that, but if you put your mind into a part of, say, your hand or a different part of your body, your conscious mind thinking about a specific place in your body has been proven by science to increase blood flow. So you can actually help yourself heal. That's why we announce the points a lot of times, because people's mind will go to the point, to the area, and also add energy. So left side and right side. And again, see 3, 4, and 5, the nerves going to the jaw. And then there are some special arteries, facial arteries, which are going to help with the pain and then anti-inflammation. And then we bring the energy down to the feet. Liver 3 and kidney 1. How you guys doing? How's your pain level, Cheryl?
I think it's less. No, it's about, I would say a 5 now.
Cool.
But I do feel relaxed, and there's a little tingling in my hands.
That's a good sign. That means the energy gets from the core to the extremities, and that's a great thing. So what I'll do, Betsy, because I know we had some people we didn't get, such as Linda, Jane, and Susan, we'll give them a tune-up, and then everybody can follow along, because I don't want to miss anybody. And then we can even start the questions now if we want. I'm going to give you all a tune-up, which is going to do a complete tune-up for everyone, but I don't want to miss Linda, Jane, and Susan. How's that, you guys?
Okay, we'll start with the questions then. Please speak out if you have a question for Joe.
I have a question, Joe. This is Linda.
Hi, Linda.
I'm so glad to see you this evening.
Awesome to see you.
You mentioned about a massage. I know you used to give massages, but you don't do them anymore. I'm looking for someone who can do a really good, like lymphatic, deep tissue kind of massage.
Yeah, the only person is my associate. Her name is Nikki. She works in the clinic I used to work in. I think you know her, Jeff.
What was that clinic you used?
I don't think I know her, Joe.
It's the TAM Center of Quincy, 400 Congress Street.
On Congress?
Yeah. And the other option is my other associate. We used to work with Parkinson's patients together, and is Christina. She does some massage, but she also focuses on acupuncture. But she's brilliant. We were a team. We worked on lots of people together for many years.
And is she also located at the TM Center?
Same place.
Thank you.
I'd also recommend Linda Bill Polk, who does neurofascia release, which has a lot, the massage is in there. I can give you that information later.
Sure, Betsy, thank you.
Yeah, you've had good results with that, right, Betsy?
Yes, excellent.
Okay. So for me, since I am a caregiver for a 94-year-old, I made that decision that it's too dangerous for me to actually work and to be exposed for myself. But for myself, it's okay. I've already gone through COVID possibly twice. And then to expose a 94-year-old to COVID just doesn't make sense. So I stay home. So I won't be working with massage therapy, but Nikki's great. Nikki is one I work with. She helped me through yoga and massage therapy to straighten my spine. I was born with scoliosis, curved spine. She's Korean, she's cool, she's great.
is the ouch point on the back of the neck?
Who's speaking? Raise your hand.
Samantha.
Samantha. Oh, okay, I see it. Yes, Samantha.
Is the ouch point on the back of the neck when you're tapping?
For what in particular?
No, I'm just in general. Is that when you put the ouch point, is it on the back of the neck or you tap?
Wherever it hurts, you can have an ouch point. You can be
Oh,
sore
I see.
on your head, on your foot,
Okay.
wherever it hurts. So you do two things. You work on the
Okay.
nerve flow to the area, the blood flow to the area, and then the target area, the actual place where it hurts. So we worked on the teeth for those people. So we're continuing down, boosting the immune system for everyone. And working on the gut, T7 and T12. So eat your fermented foods every day. I just had some natto. That's a tough one, but I love it. Raw,
Yeah.
fermented. It's great. I think I
Where do
make,
you get natto nowadays? I haven't seen natto in a long time.
I get it shipped from New York.
Oh, no wonder, yeah, I was gonna say.
There
Out of the
are
word.
Japanese food stores. There's two Japanese food stores, one in Medford and one in Arlington.
Oh, okay, thank you.
There you go. Make sure it's
You
not
can
mashed.
also get nachos tomato online and make your own.
Yep. And there are two companies that I know of that have actual natto. One is in Vermont called Rhapsody Farms, and the one in New York is called, instead of the word nurture, N-U-R-T-U-R-E, it's N-Y-R-T-U-R-E, which is New York. Get it? I guess you got to be from New York to come up with that. Yeah, that's a good word. So I'm continuing with the tune-up for everyone.
Joe, what did you say earlier about scoliosis?
I was born with scoliosis. Who's speaking?
Kathleen.
Kathleen, okay. I was born with a curved spine. And then through exercise, through yoga, and through massage therapy, because in massage therapy, in a lot of ways, depending upon, so I was born with it. So my spine was, imagine my spine is like this, or what's a good way to put it? Imagine my spine is curved like this.
Yeah, I know it's scoliosis.
So it means from a physiological perspective is the muscles may be pulling too much this way. You release those muscles, it can come back. And I know that from personal experience. That's what I did. And Nikki was the one who did that for me, along with yoga. There actually yoga is brilliant for posture. So we all know that. So I'm going to come down and ground for people. And I'll take
Joe, it's Cheryl.
Yes.
So you had mentioned that you had COVID at one time. What did you do to alleviate your symptoms?
So what I did is, I think one of the benefits, of course, I was going into it, we all have immune boosting foods, but I took an herbal remedy that had oregano, andrographis, and some Chinese herbs and essential oil types of herbs. That was one. I took high dose vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, lots of hydration, iodine. I was out for about 10 days.
When you say high dose vitamin C, means 6 grams, 6 to 10 grams or something.
That could be. I didn't take that much. I took liposomal, if people aren't familiar with it.
Yeah.
Which is highly, more effective.
Absorbable.
Yeah. So I probably took 3 to 4 grams a day for a few days. And the herbal remedy that I had, because my temperature was actually quite high, I pulsed it. I took it every 2 hours. I even got myself up at night so I wouldn't miss it. I took it every 2 hours for one of those 24-hour periods to make sure that I could do it. Because I had a pretty good case. I got it from New York, I'm sure. because I had just come back from New York on a bus from New York. A week later, I had something pretty serious. But I wasn't disabled. I was just isolated, and then I was focusing on it to heal. I could actually still function. I was just resting a lot and doing things, but I did have a fever. I didn't lose my sense of flavor or smell or anything like that, but I definitely, and then I had something where I had a 3-day spurt of 104 temperature.
Wow.
That was a couple months ago. So even though I eat really well, but we have stress and different things, we're not perfect. But I'd say, through the natural ways that I did it and the foods that you're studying and different things like that, you have a good opportunity to overcome anything, even COVID.
Thank you. Also, what does it mean when you have a low grade fever?
You're probably around 100, 102. I think
No, I mean, if it's, it's like 96 point something, it's low grade.
Yeah, it just means it might be some minor infection or some exercise you're doing. We're supposed to be 98.6. So if you're on 99 or 100, that's kind of the beginning. And that's something usually your body can handle in reverse. If you're over that, it's getting a little bit kind of a battle. So I had that 104 temperature for 3 days, and that was strange. I was fine, but it was just a fever. Might have been some other kind of bug. I have a lot of stress, so that kind of negates a lot of the good work of the yoga and the things that I do. But still, I survived. I do Tongren for people. I've done several people that are in hospital with COVID. So the Tongren is perfect because you can't visit people, but I can treat them. I have a secret weapon. I can actually treat people that have COVID in hospitals. And I've worked on 4 COVID people in New York so far, and they all went home eventually. Not just because of me, because of many things, but they eventually went home and survived the COVID attack, even after going in the hospital.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And you use the same protocol, the brain flow, the brain and the same.
The 3-part process that we do: boost the immune system, get the energy going, and work on the lungs. Because if you don't know about COVID, what happens is the infection goes into the sinuses. So the other thing I did was I did steam in the sinuses with oregano, because I sanitized my nasal cavity. That's where the virus starts. So I did that on a regular basis as well. So what happens?
Can I ask? Oh, go ahead.
The last thing I was going to say, if the virus persists past the sinuses, it gets into the lungs. What happens when it gets into the lungs is it likes lung cells. Different viruses are opportunistic for different things. The COVID has an affinity to its lung cells. And you end up with something called a cytokine storm, which is a massive immune response against the virus, creates a ton of mucus. Then you can't breathe and you feel like you're drowning. And that's what causes those symptoms. Yes, Cheryl?
I was going to say, I had a question about your cleanse, your colon cleanse, right?
Oh, sure.
April 24th. So if you wanted to, and I know that you speak a lot about clay, drinking clay. Is it, does it defeat the purpose to drink the clay while you're doing the colon cleanse?
No, not at all. It increases the effectiveness, because for people that aren't familiar with clay is like multi-million-year-old compressed volcanic ash, and it's not sand, it's very fine, and it has incredible amounts of minerals. So has lots of electrolytes, lots of minerals, lots of something called silicaceous acid, which is the precursor to silica, which is the precursor to collagen, which builds bones. So to answer your question is, you take it internally and externally. The kind that I use with a friend of mine who actually digs it up out of the ground himself. He mines it and then he mills it. He actually grinds it very small himself. So what happens with clay is a therapy used in all cultures throughout the world clay, when you take it internally or even through the skin, because that's also a way it gets into the body, it electromagnetically binds to viruses, toxins, heavy metals, and bacteria. It sticks to them, and then you excrete them out of your body or poop them out of your body. So it's very good to do it internally and externally.
Mm.
For the colon cleanses she's speaking of, it's a 7-day process where you're doing some clay, you're doing herbs, and you're detoxing. But most importantly, it has a core component of flooding the body with oxygen, which melts the mucoid plaque, which cleans the colon. And that's based upon the research of Tesla from 1895. Nothing that I invented. It's just a magnesium, a specialized magnesium with an extra oxygen molecule which gets released. So I look at it as the core foundational thing for healing, to accelerate the healing, to if people are constipated or they want to get a clean colon, so you can improve digestion, absorption, and elimination for your overall efficiency. Just like eating a lot of fiber, eating your sprouts, green smoothies, fermented foods. Think cabbage, think fiber, think fermented foods, think wheatgrass if you can. Good stuff.
So if I just finished one of your cleanses, is it too soon to do another?
Not at all, but it
April?
really depends. Nope. I've sort of set it up that people can do it seasonally, and eventually I'm going to sort of guide it, line it up with the full moon as well, so you can also get the benefit of the full moon during the process as a healing. But if you do it seasonally, because I know from personal experience, and one of the reasons that I took the COVID very aggressively is because probably several years ago, before I really got a good handle on raw food, during the seasonal changes, I had a lung weakness. When you go from spring to fall, or summer to fall, the lung is the organ of weakness, if you're familiar with Chinese medicine. And I got bronchitis. This was many, many years ago. I stopped getting that once I got the raw food balance correct. So that's why I aggressively work to make sure that I don't have any progression of anything, even a cold, into my lungs because of that weakness. But long story short is, it's good to do it during the time of the seasons change or every quarter. It's actually pretty good to do it like that. Even once a year, twice a year is very good. But it depends on your results. If you think you need it, if you want to regenerate, or if you still have some digestive issues, you can do it again. So it just makes the raw food that you're eating and learning about more effective. It removes, does everybody know what mucoid plaque is?
Pretty much, yeah. It lines the intestine.
Yeah, it's like a rubber lining of your gut. And you got to get rid of that because it's like having rubber between your digestion and absorption. And the reason I picked this specific cleanse, and they're all good, this one melts that with oxygen, and it melts it from internally, upper and lower digestive tract, not just the lower one that you get through hydrotherapy. It was really efficient. I don't know you guys, but Tesla was kind of smart.
Not the car, but the man.
The man, yeah, yeah. Some people may only think of it as the car, but it's the man who lived in the 1890s, and he was from Croatia. And I learned that because a guy from Croatia was in one of my workshops. He says, "Do you know where Tesla's from?" I said, "Actually, I don't." He says, "From my country, Croatia."
Wow.
So anything about food or nutrition, just keep with the journey, keep with the food combining is critical. The food ratios is critical for getting the right thing. Don't eat too many nuts and seeds. That was a mistake that I made at the beginning. I was eating, cashew cream cheesecakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner sometimes many, many years ago. Don't do that. That's crazy. It tastes great, but it's really bad. It creates inflammation. I had a difficulty walking. I ate so much of the nuts and seeds because I created some inflammation. Bad.
Is that because they're fatty? Why?
What's that?
Why do they create? Is that something? Is that about the fat or about the something else? Like
Yes, it's about too much fats. The
What
body's
about
really,
too much protein too?
it can be actually, in a part, it can be both. Our body has a natural harmony of ratios. What it does, it has 10 to 20% protein, 10 to 20% fat, and the rest is carbs. We are a carb machine. Fruits, even green fruits, starches. We are a carb machine. We put carbs and oxygen and we burn it, we make energy. That's what our body is. Proteins and fats, they are supplementary. They do other tasks. They don't create energy initially. That's not their purpose. Their purpose is to do building and supporting the nerves and doing different things. So in excess of that, the body kind of goes crazy. If you eat, as I did, I calculated it, I was eating 40 to 50% fat in my diet. I was 100% raw and I was having difficulty walking because I had so much pain in my legs. 100% raw, juicing, and I was in pain. I fixed those ratios, never had pain again. It works if you do it right. So listen to Betsy.
Listen to Joe. Get his great books.
But remember also the carbs. You know, good things like avocados, which are, they do have some fat, but cucumbers, all the fruit. Cucumbers are fruits, avocados are fruits, squashes are fruits. Of course, the regular sweet fruits are fruits, but fruit itself is 70% water. The rest is fiber and vitamins and minerals. So you can't go wrong with fruit. How's that? Any other questions for people? So how's everybody, just curious, how's everybody doing through the program? Is it challenging, difficult, crazy, enlightening? How you feeling about the program? Any questions about things that you don't like, or, because the goal with this program of Betsy and the goal is really to have some good information so you have long-term success.
I really appreciate all feedback because I always want to improve the course each time.
So one of the
So
most
I just want to, so can I just tell you something? My tooth feels much better now.
woohoo.
It must be a delayed reaction.
Okay, very subtle. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes, especially with diabetes and sugar counts, those sometimes don't take till the next day for the body to kind of harmonize. The body gets energy and it does work and it kind of fixes itself. So that's what happens. So the only other thing that I would say, one of the mistakes that I made at the beginning was not really working with community, but I understood the value of community. And so I built one to force myself, and that's how Betsy and I met. We kind of created a community because that's also our spiritual nourishment for long-term success.
It is 8:33. Do you want to continue to answer questions? But some people can go if they need to leave at 8:30, or do you have a time frame, Joe?
I'm good for a few more minutes if anybody has any more questions.
Joe, I just wanted to know, how often should you do your colon cleanse? I know I did one, I think it was in the end of February. How often is it good to do a colon cleanse?
It's good to do it like every quarter. I think it's really good to do it every quarter because we're always accumulating stuff. So I'm trying to do it every quarter. So this one is going to be the end of April, which is about 3 months, February, March, April. And then maybe do one in the summer. So it's good to do it every 3 months or every 6 months, just to keep it fine tuned. If you're perfectly healthy with this food, you can't really have constipation, but if you're feeling good, you can wait. But it's good, I think, anyway, to try to do it every 3 to 6 months.
So how would one sign up for your cleanse then?
Yeah, if you
How
go to
would
my website, Anusara Wellness, no, it's my education website, which is learn, Learn dot anusarawellness.com.
Okay.
And then you can find the it's called Immune Boost Colon Cleanse.
Here's his contact info.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last one there, Calendly, for if anybody wants a 15-minute private consult, and I'm not crazy about stopping at 15 minutes, whatever you need to talk about. But that's just to set up a specific time we can talk, and I can give you advice. A lot of it is through my experiences and stuff like that. But I'll just tell you, at the end of the day, through raw foods, herbs, really good hydration, some good exercise, yoga or Tai Chi, walking, good natural sunlight. I even believe in breath work. I just took an 8-day breath work, breatharian workshop. So there are good techniques for breathing and stuff like that that you can do as well. And yoga has a lot of that good science already. Catherine knows, those different types of breaths, Kalabati breath and the double breaths and all those different things. So more
What
air, stuff like that.
was the breatharian workshop fasting as well?
It included a 3-day dry. This was, I'm always experimenting with myself, and I'm not recommending this
Yeah,
to anyone, but it included
no, but
3-day dry fast
wow.
and the 3-day diluted juices, which is mostly water.
Yeah,
But I felt it was easy for me, so I did 5 days.
wow. Of the dry?
3 days dry, 5 days water and juice dilution.
Okay.
But the reason it
Wow.
was easier for me is because I've been doing this type of food for many years. So eventually,
Yeah.
it wasn't a big switch to go to juicing or, if I went into that situation where I ate pizza every day, I probably would have died,
Mhm. Somebody was saying that when Jesus supposedly went into the desert for 40 days, he might have been doing breatharian work. Very interesting.
Yeah, what breatharian work is similar to raw foods. It's getting biophotonic energy or air energy
Yep.
from our environment. One thing I learned from the process, because breath is healing, breath is oxygen. Oxygen is anti-cancer, and I have a lot of cancer patients, so I'm always researching how do we get more oxygen into the body. But the breatharian training is basically, just to tell you, and this is to digress a little bit from what we're talking about, Betsy, but there are many ways to eat to get nourishment into the body. The best way through food is raw foods and live foods. Another way is what I use for patients that cannot eat is clay through the skin. You can get vitamins, you can get minerals and electrolytes through the skin through baths. Another way is through cultivation through qigong. Another way is through proactive breath, which is what a lot of the breathing techniques of pranayama are with yoga. You breathe fast. You hyperoxygenate the body temporarily. And then you do that as a way. So there are many ways to do this. And in yoga, they do pranayama. This was like a pranayama type of situation. It adds oxygen to the tissues, which your food does, the food that you all do. So I'm not suggesting to do that. Get a handle on the raw foods, get a handle on exercise. And I'm not saying it was easy, but it was easier than, say, somebody who'd come in eating hot dogs and french fries and pizza for sure. But nobody would go into this process doing that. And then the 48-day journey of Christ into the dead, I'm not sure what that would be, maybe water or air, but there are advanced techniques that you can do. But, food is great. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you so much. I got to sign off, Jane.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's been really great. Everybody's going to give you feedback. They'll be writing to you.
Yeah. Remember, good feedback is great. Bad feedback is an opportunity to get better. To improve, right? Always want to get better. And then if there's anything else guys want to know about that I can help you with. But in terms of the food, I'm on board with everything you're doing. It's the best. It is the best diet on the planet. It's the most healing diet on the planet by far. I researched, I tried to say, no, it's not my researching other thing, but it is the best, guaranteed.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. We really appreciate it very much. You're
It's
very-
awesome. It's awesome to meet all of you. Namaste, as they say. Kathleen knows better, but it's great to see everyone. And I want to offer myself as a support for your journey. You're doing a great job. You're going to change the world. Go for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You do a lot to change the world. Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you, Joe.
Okay, bye now.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
Joe.
Bye.